Hello everybody and welcome back to the BNL Karting Series. It's round 3 for the 2026 season and we are here in the Limburg region of Belgium, not too far away from the German border. And it's definitely very hot here in this part of the country as temperatures have exceeded 30 degrees Celsius over the course of this week so far. But we are here for day 1 of round 3 out of 4 for the 2026 season, which brings us on to the path to Portimao, the location for the 2026 Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals, running between the 7th to the 14th of November. We've got a very, very packed schedule on the cards, a total of 34 races. We've already had time qualifying this morning, which at times was very, very ultra competitive. But the temperatures are going to be one of the biggest factors that all over 160 drivers from the best part of nearly 25 different nations here this weekend are going to have to contend with, along with the very venerable, the world famous Home of Champions circuit here at Karting Genk. And before we go trackside for the first of 17 races today, here on Saturday, the 20th of June, let's give you a refresher of this iconic circuit. Karting Genk has been a staple of international and world championship karting since its establishment over 4 decades ago, and continues to be a driver's favourite. A technical circuit combining great overtaking opportunities, high speed, low speed corners, and really is one that every driver loves to get challenged by. Nestled in the Limburg countryside here in Belgium, not too far off of the German border, the circuit really needs no introduction if you're familiar to the world of karting. It runs clockwise and its total distance is 1,360 metres. 3 sectors in total, with a multitude of corners to challenge every single driver, no matter their class or age, with a total of 11 corners to negotiate every single lap. So we now head to the first of our junior Rotax qualifying heats with 47 drivers here this weekend. We are T-minus just under 60 seconds to go. After qualifying this morning, well, it was Rares Pascu from Switzerland that took the overall quickest time. The juniors have been split into 3 groups, A, B and C respectively, and all the drivers over the next 2 days will compete in 2 of the 3 qualifying heats over the course of the day. And the top 36 will then qualify for the final later on. All qualifying heats over the next 2 days will be 7 minutes plus an additional lap in duration. The only difference with that is that Minimax, Minimax Rookie, DD2 and DD2 Masters will have a pre-final and a qualifying heat to deal with before the final itself. The Rotax Max Evo engines fire up for the first time for Junior Rotax for qualifying Heat 1, Groups B versus C. So let's take you through the starting grid. On pole position, it's going to be Mick Klinkers from the Netherlands with Switzerland's Luan Seidel alongside Denny Babacek and Mika van Berkel on row 2. Finley Lines and championship leader Kian Bernard round out row 3, ahead of fellow Brits Riley Morrow and Jensen Chalk who round out row 4. Matthias Verreken and Tobias Johns round out the top 10, followed by Sebastian Clark and Branislav Rentka on row 6. Next up, Luca Holmes-Balak with Stanley Stafford rounding out the next row, followed by Kimi Mai, Augustin Hanik, Sam Kohler, Harry Taylor, Martin Soltis, Lennart Köster from Germany, Devon Yater from the Netherlands, Jensen Walker, Gillian Dummer, Alex Shepard, Thibaut Mercier, Leon Herbos, Trent Van Mellick, Tim Feldman, Daniel Hakkinen, Philip Hansler and Ollie Healy rounding out the grid. So let's have a look at the top three in the championship standings after the opening 2 rounds at Ostrico and Marienborg. So coming into the third and penultimate round, it is Cian Bernard on 419 points, with KR Sports Finley Lines just 11 points behind in P2. And then the Swiss young hotshot, KR Sports Luan Seidel, rounds out the top 3 on 369 points. So the drivers now getting themselves ready. And for the first time here today at the home of champions, the red lights are ignited on the starting gantry. As always, Junior Rotax is that middle part of the progression up the Rotax racing ladder, where juniors really start to gather that skill set that they need before they move up into what I consider and what many consider one of the most competitive karting classes, which is of course Senior Rotax. Now Mick Klinkers and Luan Seidel, the latter third in the championship standings, as you've just seen on 369 points, are the ones that are going to have to control the pace. Air temperature currently 26 degrees centigrade. We're due to hit a high of around 31 to 32 degrees centigrade at around about 4 to 5 o'clock local time here in Limburg. But with all drivers neatly formed, it is time to get the racing for round 3, day 1, underway as they split, head into the tram lines. Lights are on, lights are out. We are racing. And it's time to see who will get to turn 1 first. As Mick Klinkers leads the way, Luan Seidel loses out to Denny Babacek, as quite a few drivers have to use the runoff area. But it just goes to show that these drivers really have to go against it. But in the background, looks like there's a couple of stragglers, and I did spot a couple of carts. They've had it coming together, and 2 drivers intertwined as the leaders make their way down the famed Europalan. Top 2 starting to break away. Cian Bernard starting to get his elbows out in the Sam Pollock Racing 282. He is right behind Denny Babacek, the younger brother of Teresa Eliska and Petra Babichkova. Teresa will be in action a little bit later on today, as a little bit of a run wide by Sebastian Clark in the 251 coming out of Cafe Corner. But the top 2 have started running away with it, and it's Finley Lines and Riley Morrow, P3. It is going to be Mick Klinkers, just a nose or so ahead of Denny Babacek. And there is Lieke van Berkel, who has been very, very good in the way that she has applied herself to the Junior Rotax category. Just 15 years of age from the Netherlands, running with SP Motorsport as Cian Bernard up the inside, through on Mick Klinkers. Babacek goes through, and Van Berkel looks over her right shoulder. She gets through before they hit the end of the Europalan. Luan Seidel just about misses out, but then has a little bit of a drama in his own right. The Swiss driver has dropped a few positions, as Mick Klinkers seems to be the cork in the bottle. He's got the 2.63 of Slovakia's Martin Soltis just behind as they go through into Cafe Corner, and Seidel again just having to be very cautious. But meantime, Finley Lines leads Riley Morrow after what is now 2 laps by over 5.5 tenths of a second. And there is Denny Babacek's just got the warning flag, 3 wide a little bit further back, which has the likes of the 253 of Harry Taylor, Jensen Walker, Devon Yater embroiled in all of that melee happening behind. Ollie Healy is out of the race, and looks like Tobias Johnson, Branislav Rentka might have been the 2 carts that were intertwined, as Devon Yater gets passed by the 284 of the UK Sam Kohler. Kimi Mai from Germany for Kraft Motorsport rounding out the top 15 at the minute, and Luan Seidel has had a race, but he didn't really want to start this way. He's down 14 positions already, rounds out the top 16. Luca Holmes-Balak, who was also caught up in all the carambolage on the opening lap, is now running 28th. He's down 15 positions, having qualified what would have been, that would have been saying to me round about 13th place. But, oh dear, dramas have happened as I've just seen a couple of drivers tumble. Lennart Köster gets a black and white warning flag in the 244 from Germany from race control. New fastest lap by the man in 8th position, Jensen Chalk, 57.390. Jensen knows this circuit very well indeed, as it's the ongoing battle between Yater and Kohler, and that is for 13th position. Jensen Walker, who is in front of them, has gained 10 positions. Martin Soltis, who's right with Jensen Chalk pretty much, about 4.5 tenths of a second, as all it's getting a bit messy. It looks to be Devin Yater has ended up exit stage right coming out of turn number 8 as they go through turn 9, through into the left-hander at turn 10. And still, black and white warning flag goes out again. So a few drivers under the best of race control, but Finley Lines now has a second advantage over Riley Murrow. Cian Bernard up 3 spots, now P3. And has just set the new fastest lap of the race. I think I might just be hearing out of my ear range at the moment a possibility that someone might have a slightly noisy exhaust. But 2.5 minutes to go plus an additional lap. Trent van Melk down in 28th position. The youngster from the Netherlands goes in with a 56.839. But Lines about to complete lap number 5 is calmly and coolly expanding that lead. It is now over 1.1 seconds as lap 5 is now going to be in the books, and his gap is 1.2. Morrow, Bernard, Babicek, Van Berkel, Verhaken now into 6th, up from 9th. Chalk, Klinkers, Soltis change for position, as it looks like Sebastian Clark got through on Martin Soltis, and here goes Harry Taylor. Oh, that was neatly done by the 253 from the UK. And Switzerland's Luan Seidel has now taken the fastest lap of the race. 56.542 for the youngster from Switzerland. Now back up to 13th position, so has made up a couple of positions in the meantime. Bernard setting the timesheets alight purple is the 282 from Sam Pollitt Racing. And he's trying to catch up with the 2 in front. It's going to be easier said than done, because now we complete lap number 6. And Finley Lines' lead over Riley Murrow is expanding by sector. And a change for position as the 277. Mick Klinkers gets through on Jensen Chalk. Cian Bernard, another new fastest lap of the race. 56.438 for the 282. Jensen Chalk, the youngster running with MLC Motorsport, has now got KR Sports Sebastian Clark not too far behind. Down the Europolan they go. And, well, Harry Taylor is trying to look for a move. Chalk through on Klinkers. And Clark takes complete opportunity of the situation. Manages to get through on the youngster from the Netherlands. Now, oh, that's a bit rambunctious there. Taylor goes off, has to use the runoff area, clashes sidewalls with Klinkers, and someone's gone off at turn 10. And that is going to be Klinkers. 2 laps to go, and Finley Lines now has nearly a 1.6 second advantage. Looks like Harry Taylor got a little bit of a biff from behind, as now everyone's got their elbows out. That includes the 221 of the recovering Luan Seidel, who has got Kimi Mai right behind in the 255. 30 drivers still running as we hit 0 on the timer. Bernard is still going purple. He's absolutely flying as the 282. Could have been a very different story in qualifying had it worked for the young man from Sam Pollitt Racing, but Finley Lines will now lead us on to the final lap of this very, very quick fire opening qualifying heat. Philipp Hansler, the 212 from Germany, gets the warning flag. Final lap underway. And Finley Lines has a 1.6 second advantage over Riley Morrow. Augusta Hanik now gets the warning flag from race control in the 2:15. There is Bernard. He's really caught up with Riley Morrow, who definitely last year as a Minimax driver showcased that he was ready to go to juniors, and he has been punching above his weight. No pun intended there for the youngster in the 222. As Denny Babacek has got Lieke van Berkel not that far behind. That's the battle for P4 on the road. Matthias Verreken up 3 spots. One of the biggest movers, if not the biggest mover, Jensen Walker in the 226 has moved up an astonishing 13 places, but it is Finlay Lines from KR Sport that wins qualifying heat 1, ahead of Morrow, ahead of Bernard, Babacek P4, Van Berkel, Verreken, Chalk, Clark, Walker and Seidel. That is your top 10. A few other drivers have dropped down the order. Augustin Hanik, I just noticed, did so. But Finlay Lines wins the opening qualifying heat after 9 laps and 12.24 kilometres at an average speed of over 85 kilometres an hour. That's around about 53 miles per hour in the metric sense. Riley Morrow P2. Kian Bernard, Denny Babacek, Lieke van Berkel, Matthias Verreken, Jensen Chalk, Sebastian Clark, Jensen Walker and Luan Seidel round out the top 10 with Martin Soltis for KRK Racing, Kimi Mai for KAF Motorsport. Then we had Harry Taylor from DHR, Alex Shepard for Evolution Racing, KAF Motorsport's Julian Dummer rounding out the top 15. Luca Holmes-Balak rounding out 16th, head of Leon Herbo's Mick Klinkers. Sam Kohler, Philip Hansler rounds out the top 20 with Devon Yater. Daniel Hakkinen, the son of 2-time Formula 1 world champion Mika, rounds out 22nd ahead of Stanley Stafford. Lennart Köster, Augusta Hanik, Tim Feldman, Trent Van Malik, Thibaut Mercier, Tobias Johns and Branislav Rantka bringing up the rear of the field. And unfortunately, Ollie Healy retired on the opening lap of the race. So now from juniors we head to senior Rotax, and it's time for the first qualifying heat. Groups A versus B. And with that in mind, let's take you through the starting grid. Tino Sidler starts from pole position ahead of Charlie King on the front row of the grid. Lars Lambers and Ollie Wise round out row 2 with Rafael Mahor and Freddie Lloyd on row 3. Boz Maximov, Deacon Russell next up ahead of Harry Freeman and Vic van Kampenhout, who will complete the overall top 10. Attila Kalapax and Reimer van Beek next up ahead of Akos Maderas and Kai Clark. Matej Vikor and Antoine Taron. Following them will be William Pemble, Matteo Montrone, Shun Sekaguchi from Japan, Sverre Ubben, Ren Kairos from the UAE, Tobias Norman from Denmark, Bo Alvarez, Boris Verhaag, Rein van der Meer, Noah Janssen, Arav Dewan from India, Cody Lepatrel by way of Guernsey, Dennis Helson and Philip Lenk rounding out the grid. With that in mind, let's give you an update of the championship standings after the opening 2 rounds in the senior Rotax division. So, the top 3 at the moment, it is very closely fought because Vince van der Holle on 409 points. Macaulay Bishop, the defending BNL International Trophy and Grand Finals champion, and Taze van Wyk rounds out the top 3 from what I understand. Unfortunately, Taze van Wyk will not be competing. I think he has sustained an injury at a recent event in the Netherlands. So, van der Holle and Bishop, that's where the battle remains. And that is your top 3 in the overall standings after the opening 2 rounds. But Tino Sidler has been at the sharp end, and he will lead the field to lights out as they will now accelerate. Revs up, lights on, and we are racing here in the first qualifying heat. Sidler leads the field. Lars Lambers and Rafael Mahor try and get through on Charlie King. Charlie King has lost a couple of places. 3 wide going through into turn 2. And that can be a bit too close for comfort, but we've had a drama. 376. Kai Clark has gone straight on. Someone else has ended up having a drama at the back end of the field. And that looks to be Reimer van Beek from the Netherlands in the 393. Sverre Ubben hasn't had a good start either to the race. The driver for GKS Lemons Power. But Tino Sidler is leading the train, and right behind him he's got Lars Lambers. Charlie King in P3 as they head to turn 11, change for the lead as Lambers gets through on Sidler and will cross the line to become our new leader after the opening lap. Sidler pointing to Lambers saying, come on, stop mucking about and get on with it. So Sidler threads the eye of the needle through at turn 1, retakes the race lead. And then we've got Rafael Mahor, the French driver, in the 326, up to P3. And Mahor running with SF Automotek, running on the Cosmic chassis, trying to now close on in to the 2 in front. And right behind there's Charlie King. He's got Harry Freeman from KR Sport, Freddie Lloyd in the 375 in the... Oh, there's a touch between Freeman and Lloyd. Freeman sideways coming out of turn 9. Just about hung on to it. As, oh, right, black flag for Kai Clark. Sverre Ubben is out. So I would say probably for Kai Clark because he inadvertently shortcutted the track. So that is straight away an exclusion from the session. So Kai Clark has been given the black flag. And that means he's going to have to park it in the pit lane. Reimer van Beek is still circulating. So is Rein van der Meer from what I'm understanding. Or has Rein van der Meer actually parked it in the pits as well? Meantime, the top 3, it's now Lambers from Sidler, from Mahor. A very close battle with the top 3 last time around, covered by just over half a second. And there's a almighty gap between them. And who is in 4th? It is going to be, looks like Freddie Lloyd. Charlie King now in 5th. Boris Maximov up into what is now 6th position. Tino Sidler retakes the lead as we fast approach halfway, and Lambos goes through. Switchback from Sidler is successful. Matteo Montrone from Italy gets the fastest lap of the race, 56.305 for the 313, and if I'm very much mistaken, that is an MKC Motorsport livery I spot on that kart. But there's packs of battles all up and down the order. Biggest movers at the moment. Boris van Haag up to 10th from 24th. Arav Dewan from India. Now up 14 spots, runs 13th. Head of Noah Janssen from Germany. Philip Lenk is now also up the order. Freddie Lloyd in 4th now sets the fastest lap of the race. 55.955. For the 375 from the UK. And it looks like, yep, unfortunately, Antoine Tajon out of the race. Rein van der Meer has retired. So has Sverre Ubben. And Kai Clark has been given the black flag. And that eliminates the 376 from the race. That's an exclusion from the session, I'm afraid. As we are just under 2.5 minutes. Plus an additional lap to go. Freddie Lloyd fastest in the opening sector. Harry Freeman fastest in the middle sector. Sidler brings us over the line to complete lap number 6. Well, lap 5 thereof, we go on to lap 6. The gap between 1st and 2nd and 3rd, just over 4.5 tenths of a second. But Freddie Lloyd, again, another new fastest lap by the 375, 55.472. And he is only 1.1 seconds off of the 326 from SF Ultimatech. Rafael Moreau, 26 drivers are continuing in this race after having 30 starters. Freeman goes quickest in the opening sector. Sidler quickest in the middle sector. And it's become a bit of a chess game at the front end of the field. Meantime, Freddie Lloyd has pulled away from Boris Maximov in 5th. Harry Freeman 6th. Charlie King, Ollie Wise, Boris van Haag, and William Pemble now round out your top 10. Pemble up 7 spots from 17th at the start, 6 minutes ago. Harry Freeman, new fastest lap of the race in P6. 55.246 for the driver from the UK. So next time around, we will have 2 laps remaining. But still at the front end of the field, Sidler controlling proceedings. Harry Freeman again going purple across the board. 2,720 metres remain of the race, 2 laps. And Sidler holds on. Freeman again, just quickest of anybody, 55.129. As the leaders make their way through into turn 4, then turn 5. So the 378 increasing the pace and closing in to the rear bumper of the 358 from the Netherlands, last year's chrono karting Dutch junior Rotax champion, and that being Boris Maximov. Timer has hit 0. Next time around it will be the final lap of this particular race. So Tino Sidler brings us on to the final lap of qualifying heat 1 for senior Rotax A versus B with a just over quarter of a second advantage. But then I look a little bit further back from, 7th, Ollie Wise, the 356 leading that battle. Harry Freeman, again, new fastest lap, 55.052 as the leaders come down the Europalan for the final time. And unfortunately in the shot, I just clocked Sverre Ubben's kart at a stationary point on the grass halfway down on the right-hand side of the Europalan back straight. But still, Lambers and Sidler did swap in the early phases of this opening qualifying heat for the senior Rotax division. And powering out of the final corner, it is Tino Sidler that wins qualifying heat 1, groups A and B, winning by just over 0.2 of a second from Lars Lambers. Rafael Moreau rounds out the top 3, covered by just over 0.42 of a second after 9 laps of racing. Freddie Lloyd, Boaz Maximov, Harry Freeman, Boris Verhaag and Tobias Norman round out the top 8. Verhaag up 17 places, Norman up 14 ahead of Charlie King. William Pemble rounds out the top 10. Ollie Wise, Shun Sekaguchi, Noah Janssen climbs from 26th on the grid. And the German ends up 13th behind the youngster from Japan. Matej Vikor, Deacon Russell, Matteo Montrone, Vic Van Kampenhout, Arav Dewan, Akos Madaras and Bo Aris round out the top 20. Attila Kalapax, Cody Lepetahal, Ryan Kairouz, Philip Lenk, Dennis Halson and Reimer Van Beek round out the finishers. Unfortunately, retirements from Rein Vandermeer, Sverre Ubben, Kai Clark and Antoine Taron. Unfortunately, Kai Clark given the black flag in the early part of this race. But that is the first qualifying heat for seniors completed.
Why do you come here? Is this your career?
Or is it all about fun? A chance to get away and leave it all behind?
Or do you chase your personal best? Challenging yourself over and over again. Why do you come here?
Maybe you're here to collect moments. Good ones. And not so good ones.
Or you can't afford mistakes because you want that victory. It's all about this one moment when the hard work finally pays off.
This is the place that brings us closer to the people who share our story. Whoever we are.
Whatever we're here for. Racing is who we are.
So we now head into qualifying heat number 2 for Senior Road Tax Group C and D, and the Pride of Scotland returns to the BNL. Current GB3 racer at Arden Motorsport, Lewis Gilbert, starts on pole position with Antoine Lemieux alongside on the front row. Mick van den Hout and Andrea Remy round out row number 2, with Teresa Babišková and Canada's Arnaud Sabahin rounding out the top 3 rows. Vince van der Halle, Macaulay Bishop, Max Sadursky and the UAE's Danny Shields rounds out the top 10 on the starting grid. Brian Gandor, Ava Morris, Giorgia Monterone, Leon Hasty, Bastian Misnil, Koen Willems, Sebastian Koch, Mark Kimber, Enzo Zani, Bran van der Weyck and Luca de Moitru from Romania, Germany's Louis Oliver Gunther, the UK's Conor Large, the Netherlands' Joris Schoens, Louis Le Rigoleur from France, Lado Kuhanidze from Georgia, Tom Reger from Germany, Tom Strehler from Latvia, and Hannes Überfeld from Germany rounds out the grid. Hannes Überfeld, in his own right, has made a bit of RMC Germany history in years past, having won the junior and the senior crown back-to-back in 2 respective years. Once nicknamed by yours truly, the baby-faced assassin, but he's a lot taller than what he was back in 2024, bless him. But not an easy qualifying for the 333 from Kraft Motorsport. But again, as we saw in the first Senior Road Tax heat, it is ultra competitive. A total of 60 Senior Road Tax drivers here this weekend. The red lights are up on the starting gantry once again ahead of 7 minutes, plus an additional lap of racing. Now, for those that are watching on the BNL Karting Series YouTube channel, all results called for by myself in the commentary box are provisional, pending sporting and technical matters that may need to be resolved post-session. I will update you as and when I can, when items have been concluded thereof. So 7 minutes on the timer, and we will have another Junior Road Tax qualifying heat, another 2 senior qualifying heats to bring us to the lunch break, and we'll have the qualifying heat for Mini and Mini Rookie next up after this one, and then we'll have DD2 and DD2 Masters. So all races before the lunch break, 7 minutes, plus an additional lap. It's down to Gilbert and Lemieux to control the rolling pace on this Indianapolis style start. Gilbert on pole, Lemieux alongside Van den Hout and Remy row 2. It's time to get the revs up. Lights are not out. It is going to be another formation lap. So race director Manuel Branco opting to send them for another trip around the 1,360 metre circuit here at the home of champions. There we go. Hello to my good friend from Chinese Taipei in the island of Taiwan, Roger Young. The Eurolean is back. Old Mark, as in Mark Kimber. And Pi Racing say Go Kraft Motorsport in the YouTube chat. So let us know who you are supporting, and I'll keep an eye on the live YouTube chat to give you all a shout out whenever I can, given the opportunity. And please don't forget, if you want to keep an eye on the live timing, the link is pinned to the top of the YouTube chat. So 30 drivers set to go into battle for their first time for 7 minutes plus an additional lap. Each driver in seniors will take part in 3 of the 6 qualifying heats, not just today, but for tomorrow, as everyone hurries up at the back end of the field to get into formation. So, second time of asking, the drivers come out of the final corner. Revs are up, and we are racing. Gilbert has a good start from the front end of the field. Lemieux has got Vandenhout up the inside as a few drivers using the runoff area. Too wide. Someone goes around the outside. That might be... Oh, right. That's shades of old from Teresa Babichkova as she goes round the outside at turns 3 and 4 to get third place. And she is closing in on Mick Vandenhout from the Netherlands in the 322, whose front bumper looks like it's seen better days. A bit of an indent underneath the Nassau panel. And Antoine Lemieux now down in 4th position. And behind is the 301, the reigning and defending BNL International Trophy and Grand Finals champion from Hoddesdon in Hertfordshire. Macaulay Bishop rounds out the top 5. Gilbert leads after the opening lap with just under a 7/10 of a second advantage. Vandenhout second, Babichkova, Lemieux, Bishop, Von der Holle, Shields now up to 7th. Remy down to 8th. Leon Hasty, the other Scotsman on the field, now up to 9th, head of Max Sidursky, as Bishop gets his way through on Lemieux. Here comes Von der Holle in the 372 for Bouvin Power. He's got Danny Shields right on his rear bumper, but a mistake from Lemieux. Oh dear, disaster for the Canadian on the exit of the Europlan, going into what is effectively turn 5. But Gilbert starting to stride away. Vandenhout is falling into the clutches of Babichkova and Bishop. Bishop to the inside of Babichkova, tries to get through for P3 and does so. It was coming out of the final corner. Max Sidursky picks up a black and white warning flag from Race Control in the 397 from SP Motorsport, now currently sitting 8th ahead of Mark Kimber, the only man in Grand Finals history to win in Junior, Senior and DD2. Someone's got a very noisy exhaust. There is yellow flags at Marshall Post 1, which has just quickly been retracted. So someone might be pulled for a mechanical black flag. Lado Kuhanidze from Georgia, the 380, has just been given a black and white warning flag. But Gilbert is striding away to a 1-second lead. Great to see him back in the paddock for the BNL Karting Series amidst his many commitments. I'm wondering who that might be that's got that noisy exhaust. Probably around about towards the back. It was probably towards the mid part of the pack, and that engine is definitely screaming high murder at the moment. Koen Willems has just been pinged. 307, running 23rd, is now going to have to park the cart, I'm afraid. So Vince van der Holle has now got through on Mick Vandenhout, changed for 4th position. Today's Babichkova now holding on to P3. But Lewis Gilbert is finding that his lead is being truncated by Macaulay Bishop. Gap is now just under 8.5 of a second. And Koen Willems pulls it into the pits. So mechanical black flag has been served as Babichkova versus Von der Holle. Quite a few of the drivers here this weekend are actually racing here ahead of the next round of the Rotax Max Euro Trophy taking place here at the Home of Champions next weekend. Vince van der Holle in P4, new fastest lap of the race, 56.406 for the man from Belgium. Very accredited as a junior Rotax driver, and with quite a few other drivers that he has been competing with, along with the likes of Max Sidursky, Brown van der Weken. And Boris Maximov has made the move into seniors for 2026. But Van der Holle trying to get through on Babichkova. And she is not an easy individual to pass. Now, Van der Holle tries to go to the inside line into T1. Babichkova says, no, you don't. That allows Mick Vandenhout to claw in onto the back of the 372. Van der Weken in 11th now puts in the fastest lap time of the race, 55.828 for the youngster from Bouvin Power. Another graduate from juniors to seniors this year. Biggest mover at the moment, no surprise. You'll like this one, Roger Young. Mark Kimber now up into 7th position, having got past Andreas Remy, and so did Max Sidersky. So change for 7th and 8th as Remy drops down to 9th position. And that gap has been whittled away by Macaulay Bishop as well. Finally, the deadlock has been broken for a brief moment. Van der Halle gets through on Babichkova. Babichkova is going to try and get the inside line into turn 1. Unfortunately, not able to slingshot her way past Van der Halle. Now she's got to worry about the person behind Mick van den Hout in the 3:22. But Danny Shields, the man from the UAE, not able to close on in. I'm sure that Mum and Dad, Barry and Sue, are more than likely watching from home if they're not here. I haven't seen them here this weekend. But Barry, Sue, hope you're keeping well. So 35 seconds remaining on the timer. And the lead between Gilbert and Bishop is around about 3 to 3.5 kart lengths. And closing. 2 laps to go. Gilbert still leads as we go on to lap 8 out of 9. Bishop just under 4/10 back in P2. Van der Halle P3. Babichkova 4th. 5th, Van den Hout. Shields 6th. And wanting, hopefully, to get a top 5 finish. Bishop puts in the fastest lap of the race and goes purple in the final sector. 55.556 for the 3:01 from Dan Holland Racing. Timer has hit 0. Warning flag this time has gone out to Ryan Gandor, the youngster from Canada, young Canadian. Black and white warning flag from Race Control, basically them saying, we know what you're doing, we're keeping an eye on you. But one more lap to go, and Lewis Gilbert's lead, once again, has been slightly truncated, but not probably to a point where it might worry the man from Dollery in Ayrshire. The gap 0.4 of a second as we head on to the final lap of this race. A couple of other drivers have just dropped some positions. Louis Oliver Günther from Germany and Luca de Moitru from Romania. As Bishop now looks to see if he can find an opening or make it work. Van der Halle is there. So Bishop tried to get through one way at the end of the Europlan. Gilbert parks it on the racing line, and now this is textbook Lewis. Through out of turn 10 for the final time. Run to T11. Gilbert parks it on the inside line, but it's going to drift out wide. And oh, what's happened here? Gilbert's off. Oh my goodness me. And it wasn't just him. Macaulay Bishop went off as well. Oh no. And that has given the win to Vince van der Halle. Teresa Babichkova P2. Mick van den Hout 3rd. Danny Shields 4th. Mark Kimber 5th. Oh, what a development on the final corner. Final lap of the race. Bishop and Gilbert come together. Van der Halle takes the win. Oh, I never thought I'd be saying those words at this point in the race. So Van der Halle takes the victory ahead of Teresa Babichkova with Mick van den Hout rounding out P3. Danny Shields 4th. Mark Kimber up from 18th to 5th. Max Sidersky 6th. Blan van der Weken from 20th to 7th. Ahead of Leon Hasty, who started 14th, finishes 8th. Andrea Remy and Tom Strehler round out the top 10. Strehler up 18 spots from 28th on the grid. Bastien Mesnil, Ava Morris, Antoine Lemieux, Sebastian Koch, and Yori Schoens round out your top 15. Ryan Gandor, Lado Koenitze, Connor Large, Arnold Sabahat, and Hannes Überfeld round out the top 20 ahead of Macaulay Bishop, Enzo Zani, Tom Reger, Louis Oliver Günther, Louis Le Rigoleur, Luca de Moitru, Lewis Gilbert, and Giorgia Montrone Rounding out the finishers, Koen Willems, unfortunately retiring with an exhaust causing a mechanical black flag. But whoa, what a way to end the first set of senior road tax qualifying heats here at the home of champions. So now we turn our attention to our youngest drivers. Here's your grid for the Mini and Mini Max rookie qualifying heat. Austin Amman will start from pole position ahead of Sebastian Behrman on the front row. Teddy Murphy and Dayan Habits, row 2. Flynn Grantham and Charlie Page, row 3, with James Roots, Maria Roberto, Noah Stehauder and Caio Vieira rounding out the next few rows. Tim Hansler starts ahead of Mini Max rookie pole sitter Arthur Bowers in the number 99 with Vincenzo Silva and Gustavo Oliveira from Portugal. Rounding out the next couple of spots on the grid, Tristan Abeels, Arlo Gamble, Jayan Prakash, Ben Falker, Lenny Barton, Gillian Lorison, August Likibolingzo, Samar Chopra, Henry Moyer, Jensen Skeffington, Alexander Feinstein, Milo de Karlsmaker, Kai Suri, Arthur Ray Steenbergen, Everett Van Middendorp, Amizio Zani, Josh Cook, Hossein Al-Hosseini and Logan Rolfe round out the grid, but it is time to take you through the top 3 best in both Mini and Mini Rookie after the opening 2 rounds of the season. So in terms of the top 3 best, it is Josh Cook, who has been unassailable so far with a total of 449 points. KR Sports teammate Maria Roberto on 384, and Denmark's August Likibolingzo rounds out the Minimax top 3 so far after Ostricor and Marienborg. Next up, it's also the Minimax rookie top 3. And it is Arthur Bowers on 420 points, head of Jayan Prakash on 398, with Henry Moyet from Belgium on 3rd spot on 386 points. So on the grid, I'm noticing that Jayan Prakash is not on the grid. Amizio Zani not on the grid. I'm wondering if we might get any drivers that might be starting from the repair area, but this is going to be 7 minutes plus an additional lap of racing. 33 drivers now whittled down to 31 at this moment. As Logan Rolfe, whose kart came to an abrupt halt during time qualifying, starts from the back end of the field. But it's Austin Aman and Sebastian Behrman on the front row of the grid as we go. Revs up, lights on, and we are racing. We're given the lights to go green. Aman leads the way. And Teddy Murphy up to second position. Sebastian Behrman trying to hold on to P2 as a couple of drivers using the runoff area through out of turn 1. It's the run up to the Europalan for the very first time. But Austin Aman and Teddy Murphy lead the way, 2 wide at certain points, with the 119 of Vincente Silva for GKS going round the outside. I think that might have been on Arthur Bowers through at turn 5. Might have gotten the job done. Looks like we've had a very clean opening lap so far. But a couple of drivers losing some positions. Flynn Grantham in the 126 looks to be now third and is being challenged for position. And that is going to be more than likely by Sebastian Behrman in the 137, who was to the inside on the run across the stripe. Logan Rolfe, in the meantime, has made up 10 spots to the opening 1.36 kilometres alone. Josh Cook up 9, so the 2 drivers from KR Sports moving up the order. They might be tag teaming the field at the minute, but Charlie Page in the 114 has just gone purple in the opening sector and is currently down 2 positions and finds himself behind Noah Steyhouder from the Netherlands. And to the inside, that is Maria Roberto going through on Noah Steyhouder. So the 108 loses a position. So 2 laps down. Austin Aman skirts with the grass with the sidewalls on the left-hand side of the start-finish straight coming out of the final corner, but Oman continues to hold pace. Maria Roberto, however, is on the move as she just got past Flynn Grantham in the 126 entry. And now, well, battle for P2. It is Behrman versus Murphy. And Murphy holds station going through out of turn number 9. And Dirk _1285 saying good luck to Austin, Charlie, Josh, Logan, and of course Ben Falker. Black and white warning flags to the 126 of Flynn Grantham by race control as Sebastian Behrman finds himself having elbows out to his inside. Looks like Dayan Habits has lost a position or 2, one of which including to Maria Roberto in the 152 from KR Sport, the young lady who sports the Italian tricolore on her race suit proudly. Has one of the if you want like harks back to childhood, she's got an Alice in Wonderland inspired race helmet which I clapped eyes on back at I think it might have been Ostrich or Marienburg. Sebastian Behrman gets a warning flag from race control as Austin Aman continues to control proceedings at the moment, and that lead is now going to be 5.5 tenths of a second. Teddy Murphy, James Roots in the 151 for Dan Holland Racing, now P3. Charlie Page ahead of Sebastian Behrman. And Teddy Murphy just goes and puts in the fastest lap of the race so far. And that was a 59.936. Charlie Page also running sub 60 seconds on that previous tour. Dayan Habits, the 131 for Dams Racing. Now back up to 6th position, having got through had gotten through on Maria Roberto, but she took the position back. Habits now returns the favour, back through on Maria Roberto. Roberto has been showing great racecraft all the way through. Oh, right. Gustavo Oliveira gets a warning flag from race control. The 199 from Portugal. That's Charlie Page looking to get through on Sebastian Behrman. Can't get the job done at turn 1, I'm afraid. And Austin Aman now puts in the new fastest lap of the race. 59.770 for the 121 from Sam Pollitt Racing. And there is Charlie Page. Bright in white, I have to say, with that race suit. And along with the accompanying livery on the kart. There's some real great creative minds out there. Comes up with these wonderful designs, and Charlie Page having his own stamp of identity on his race suit, race helmet, and also kart. And all 31 starters out of the 33. We didn't have a start from Jayan Prakash or Amisio Zani, I'm afraid. So 33 whittled down to 31. And that was one member of the respective ranks reduced. Here comes James Roots to the inside of Teddy Murphy. Gets the slipstream and makes sure that the move is completed and expedited by the end of turn 1. Sebastian Behrman still in that 4th spot at the moment. Just put in the fastest lap of the race of 59.378. Biggest movers at the moment, Logan Rolfe and Josh Cook up to 16th and 17th respectively. As next time by, it looks like we might have the white flag lap. 10 seconds as our leader. Now will come through out of turn number 10 at breakneck speed. And the last lap board is out. Austin Aman leads the way ahead of James Roots. Then it is Teddy Murphy. Kai Suri in the number 17 from Mini Max Rookie gets a warning flag. As Sebastian Behrman threaded the eye of the needle through at turn number 2 and got the move done on Teddy Murphy. Meantime, Battles Ahoy, Dayan Habits and Charlie Page. I imagine that's probably Maria Roberto behind them in the 152. But Austin Aman starting to stride away. It's not going to be much of a stride away, but it's going to be good nevertheless for the 121. As our leaders now head down towards the final corner on the circuit. And it is going to be out to the final turn. Austin Aman wins the qualifying heat for Mini and Mini Max Rookie. James Roots up 5 places from 7th on the grid. Takes P2. Sebastian Behrman and Teddy Murphy makes it a lockout. The top quartet from the United Kingdom ahead of Dayan Habits in 5th from Belgium. Charlie Page, Maria Roberto, Noah Stayhouder from the Netherlands, Flynn Grantham and Arthur Bowers complete the top 10. Bowers takes the win in Mini Max Rookie. Congratulations to the number 99. August Likibo-Lingzo, Arlo Gamble, Josh Cook finishes 13th after all that. Great recovery from the 175. Tim Hansler, Logan Rolfe finishes 15th, up from 33rd on the grid. Ahead of Samar Chopra, Caio Vieira, Vincente Silva, Lenny Barton, Miller de Karlsmaker, Ben Falca, Gustavo Oliveira, Jensen Skeffington, Alexander Freinstein, Tristan Abils, rounding out the top 25. Kai Suri, Henry Moyet, Arthur Ray Steenbergen, and Evert van Middendorp round out the 29 finishers ahead of Julian Lorison and Hossein Al-Husseini, who did not finish the rates respectively. So, there we go, and there we see Austin Aman on the weighbridge as that concludes the qualifying heat for Minimax and Minimax Rookie. Up next, it's the qualifying heat for DD2 and DD2 Masters. Right, so we go to our qualifying heats for DD2 and DD2 Masters, and it was Patrick Donica from Poland that put it on pole position overall, ahead of Wout Kerstens from the Netherlands, and then an all-SP Motorsport Row 2 with Mika van der Pavet, joined by teammate Enzo Bol on the second row. Sabo Bende and Ben Kaminski, row number 3, ahead of Ralph van der Pavet and Len Nyes. Theo Lemoyne and Artur Videra round out the next row, ahead of Austria's Manuel Tenschert and Germany's Yannick Jacobs. Pepin Rietman starts ahead of current reigning and defending DD2 Masters champion Christoph Capitan, with Jim Ringelberg fresh off his top rookie exports exploits in the Mazda MX-5 Cup at Zandvoort this week. Finish starts just behind. Theo Lang, Matis Ankans, Qatar's Hamza Hashisho, David Mitchell, Mac McGilvray, Gwen Bloxhill, Steve Vermeulen and Dominic Hummels round out the grid. With that in mind, let's take you through the top 3 best drivers so far in DD2 and DD2 Masters after the opening 2 race weekends of the season. So, Len Noyes leads the way by 21 points ahead of the Netherlands' Ralph van der Pavert, with Jort van Wyk not here this weekend, a further 2 points adrift in P3. In terms of the next up, we will head to the DD2 Masters contingent. And it is Crazy Boy Jim Ringelberg, leading the way by a comfortable margin of at least, that's 33 points ahead of defending champion Christophe Capitain, with Christophe Adams a little bit further away behind, but Christophe Adams not here this weekend. Dirk 1285, what happened to Josh Cook earlier? Well, didn't have the best qualifying, so I didn't quite see what happened. It might have been a little bit of compromising, not being able to find the space on the circuit, but, well, Josh is a very competent racer, let's say. 7 minutes plus an additional lap for DD2 and DD2 Masters. So, the red lights are on the gantry, and the mind games start here in earnest as we head into the tram lines. Revs up, lights on, and we are racing. Let's see what happens here. Patrick Doneker leads the way. Mika van der Pavert tries to get through as Wout Kirstens loses out second, now loses out third, doesn't lose out to fourth, but Sabo Bender gets through for fourth place and is ahead of, I would imagine, that is going to be Ralph van der Pavert, who's got through on teammate Enzo Bol, as the leaders make their way down the Europelan for the first time. Everyone pretty much in the conga line, let's say. Len Nyes has got Thielen when not too far behind, as someone is going to have to pull the trigger very shortly to make a move and start the chain reaction. And at the minute, that is not quite happening yet, as Patrick Doneker keeps ahead of Mika van der Pavert, a.k.a. Sonic, and he has got Sonic the Hedgehog on his race helmet, just above his visor. So, Ralph van der Pavert up 2 places, now runs P5. Closing in on Sabo Bender, who rounds out the top 4. Patrick Doneker, one of a handful of drivers for KSB Racing by Birillart. One of the others is a long-time driver that I've known for a few years. Haven't seen him in a while, but good to have him back here at the Home of Champions. Manuel Tenchat, who has competed throughout the period of my commentary career, either as a DD2 or a DD2 Masters. Oh, and there's a late lunge on Sabo Bende by Ralph van der Pavert. Sabo has to go wide out of Cafe Corner, and van der Pavert gets through. That was a bit of a cheeky last-minute lunge, but he made it work, and that has meant that Len Nyes, who's up to 6 behind Enzo Bol, also got through. So Bol and Nyes, that really sound like an Italian sauce terminology there, saying that too quickly. Enzo Bol and Len Nyes both also getting through on Sabo Bende, who is now down to 7th position. Christophe Capitain, in the meantime, as Artur Videra manages to get the black and white warning flag from race control. So the 4-1-1 already under the microscope, I'm afraid. That's not what you want to have happen within the first half of your first race. But it can be easily done. One wrong mistake, and all of a sudden, you're, as I said, you're under the microscope. But Patrick Donica, the driver from Poland, leads the way as Mika van der Pavet gets passed by Wout Kerstens for second position. And Patrick Donica with the new fastest lap of the race. And that is a 55.158 as Mac McGilvery has dropped all the way down to the bottom of the order, I'm afraid. And I don't think has carried on. Not too sure why that might have been. Yannick Jacobs, the man who took the 2023 RMC Germany title in this class and who also won E20 Seniors last year in Bahrain in the grand finals, has just gone purple in the opening sector of the race. But still, Patrick Donica leads the way. Wout Kerstens, 3/4 of a second behind in P2. Mika van der Pavet P3. And then Mika's elder brother, Ralph, now up into 4th. Enzo Bol gets a warning flag. As there is Bennett Sabo now through. Theo Lemoigne, Christophe Capitan now up to 8th place, up 6 positions. And there is also a driver that is moving up the order as well. Theo Lang up 5 spots. From Qatar, running with Motorscape by Birolot, Hamza Hashisho, a driver who I first came across late last October at the MENA Karting Championship Nations Cup, ran in DD2 for the host nation in Lusail, and made a good account of himself. This is his only second year, and he started late, but he's really enjoying the opportunity to compete outside of the Middle East. So I have to give a shout out to Executive Director of the QMMF, the Qatar Motor and Motorcycle Federation. Greetings from our side here in Belgium to Mr. Amro Al-Hamad. But Ralph van der Pavet is lighting up the timesheets purple. Hamza said to me yesterday, yeah, I'm really enjoying the challenge of coming out of, coming away from home and moving, into a very competitive field. And he's really enjoyed the challenge of, getting outside of his comfort zone. And he's being supported by Sanad Shanak, who's part of the Motorscape crew. But look at this, Patrick Donica leading the way. Minute and 20 still to go, so that gives us round about 3 laps of racing left. And Donica's put in a new fastest lap, 54.769 by the Polish driver. And there we see Ralph van der Pavet being closed in on by Sabo Bendi, the Hungarian driver, in the 496. Christophe Capitan still running 8th. And a lot of drivers starting to close in. The gaps are getting very, very small indeed. And the biggest gap at the moment, at the sharp end of the field, is between Mika and Ralph van der Pavet, which last time was about 1.4 seconds. And then after Ralph van der Pavet, 2.5 tenths, 3.5 tenths, half a second, 2.5 tenths, 9 tenths, 4.5 tenths. You see a repeating pattern that from Ralph van der Pavet all the way down to Mattis Ankans, as we see a change for position. Ralph van der Pavet looks like he's lost another position as well. He's got Enzo Bol on his case. Patrick Donica, another new fastest lap of 54.654. As we will next time round have the last lap board being shown. It's not getting any easier out there for the drivers. Temperature now up to 28 degrees centigrade and climbing, which probably gives us around about, as a hypothetical guess, maybe north of about 40 plus degrees centigrade out on the tarmac. The sun has been quite abrasive here in Limburg. As we go on to the final lap, Patrick Donica's lead over Wout Kerstens now expands to nearly 9.5 tenths of a second. Mika van der Pavert still runs P3 at the minute. And it has been... Well, there is Mika van der Pavert. So, Sabo Bendy gets a bit robust. Then Ralph van der Pavert charges in. And then wallop. Theo Lemoine's going to take complete advantage. Where's Enzo Boll in all of this? Because I think he was just trying to avoid the melee. And it's just about, you know, that sense of urgency sometimes. But of course, sometimes there is that that unexpected and textbook moment. But Patrick Donica wins the qualifying heat ahead of Wout Kerstens. P3, it is going to be Mika van der Pavert ahead of Sabo Bende. Ralph van der Pavert takes P5. Enzo Boll, P6, loses 2 spots. Ahead of Theo Lemoine, Yannick Jacobs, Pepin Riedman, and Theo Lang round out the top 10. Jim Ringelberg wins in Masters. So what on earth happened to Christophe Capitain in the latter part of that race? Because the Frenchman for RM Concept dropped all the way to 18th. Hamza Hashisho on BNL Karting Series debut takes 12th overall, which then becomes 11th for DD2, ahead of Artur Videra. Matis Ankans, David Mitchell, 15th, ahead of Ben Kaminsky. Len Noyes has also had a bit of a shocker on this one. 9 places dropped to 17th, ahead of Christophe Capitain, Manuel Tenchert, Gwen Bloxhill, and Dominic Hummels. In the meantime, Steve Vermeulen and Mac McGilvray, unfortunately, retired early. Right, so we go back to our penultimate qualifying heat for day 1 of 2 for round 3 for Junior Rotax. Rares Pascu is going to lead the field from pole position, and it's a Swiss front row lockout because Luan Seidel is going to be along the outside. Albert Friend, Lieke van Berkel, Charlie Kitely, Kian Bernard, Finley Smith, Jensen Chalk, Erin Unlodogan, Tobias Johns, Emily Siedkowska, Branislav Renka, Diri Dale, Stanley Stafford, Joao Pereira, Augusta Hanik, Loris Perron-Mousset, Harry Taylor, Harry Radcliffe, Leonard Custer, Louis Radcliffe, Jensen Walker, Joshua Lorison, Alex Shepard, Lionel Munguia, Leon Herbos, Dimitar Lazarov, Tim Feldman, Mikkel Grantins, Philip Hansler, and Ali Fuert Miraz round out the grid as we are set and ready with the lights on the gantry, as it is going to be time for Revs Up, Lights On, and we are racing here for heat number 2, and it's an even start by the front end, but Rares Pascu has got Luan Seidel to the outside. The 2-2-1 has to take to the escape road, keeps a hold of it, but round the outside of Lieke van Berkel goes Albert Friend to hold on to third position. The 2-1-9 for the UK, with Dan Holland Racing holds on to that position with a great audacious hold it round the outside and get the job done. Now at the moment, with ways that things are standing, of course, we have an intermediate classification, which at the minute has Finley Lines at the sharp end of it. Riley Morrow P2, Kian Bernard third. And obviously the scores will change heading into the third qualifying heat because some of the drivers will have already completed their 2 heats out of 3. Change for second. As now Albert Friend gets through on Luan Seidel and says to the Swiss driver, right, follow my lead. Now side by side a little bit further back, Charlie Kitely going toe to toe, and that is with Lieke van Berkel from the Netherlands in the 285. Kitely unable to get through. Good to see Charlie back here at Karting Genk. As we're going to see a move here. Kian Bernard on Luan Seidel. That's P3 for the 282 from Sam Pollock Racing. Looks like it's been a difficult lap this time around for Loris Perron-Mousset, who was up 4 spots. Biggest mover at the moment is Mikkel Grantins. Ali Fuad Miraz from Turkey up 8 spots now into 23rd. And a few drivers. Emily Siedkowska, the 224 from Germany, gets a black and white warning flag from Race Control. And, oh dear, well, Loris Perron-Mousset has tumbled, quite literally, down the order and is ahead of Augustin Hanik, also from France. As we see the number 219, Albert Friend, now through on Rares Pascu, his teammate from DHR, and Kian Bernard right on the rear bumper of the 235 from Switzerland. And as I said, there is an intermediate classification, and at the moment, well, Kian Bernard now leads it on 82 points ahead of Jensen Chalk, Luan Seidel P3, Lieke van Berkel 4th, Jensen Walker 5th at the minute. But after this next lap, Friend still leads. Bernard through for P2. Here comes Jensen Chalk with a head of steam, and he gets through on the 235 from Dan Holland Racing for 3rd place. Louis Radcliffe down in what is 12th position. 227 now has the fastest lap of the race, and has also just got through on Joao Pereira, the 207 from Portugal. As we are halfway through this penultimate qualifying heat out of 3. And of course, the Junior Max, Philip Hansler has just been given the black and white warning flag too. And that is the 212 from Germany. All of these drivers have got to be very, very careful how their driving conduct is out on the circuit. But Kian Bernard looking for the move, the opportunity to scythe his way past Albert Friend. Siedkowska now responds to that black and white warning flag. Oh, right. Lennart Köster is off the circuit, off of turn 10, and is out of the race. Kart is being pulled away from the outside of the corner. So unfortunately for the youngster from Germany, it is game over in qualifying heat number 2. Jensen Chalk now fires his way through at turn 9 on Kian Bernard to take second place. And whilst this battle is happening, they've got Rares Pascu. And again, it's musical chairs. Bernard back past Chalk. Friend leads after what is 5 laps. And Bernard and Chalk, they seem to be attached at the bumper. They're not leaving each other alone, for goodness sakes. And that is allowing Pascu, Kitely, Seidel, Van Berkel, Erin Unlodogan, as now Bernard looks for the opportunity to get through on Jensen Chalk. They exchange a bit of sidewall rubber down the Europolan, and Jensen Chalk loses 3 places on the bounce. And 1 to Bernard, 1 to Friend, and it looks like also Rares Pascu did get through at the same time. Mikkel Grantins now gets a warning flag in the 2-3-3. And now another change for position. That is going to be Charlie Kitely through on Rares Pascu from Switzerland. That is for 3rd on the road. Biggest mover, Louis Radcliffe with the 227. 21st on the start, now runs 8th. Loris Perron-Mousset does get the fastest lap of the race. 56.624. As the 2-3-4 gets a black and white warning flag. That is Finlay Smith from the UK, currently running in 10th position. 2 laps remain after this one, with Albert Friend leading us on to the penultimate tour of 1,360 metres. And what's his lead? Well, it's 0.32 of a second, and Kian Bernard, new fastest lap of the race, 56.246 for the young man from Sam Pollitt Racing. The timer has hit 0, and the leaders filter their way down the Europolan for the final time, but Kian Bernard might have a shot at Albert Friend to try and get through on the 219 from Dan Holland Racing. Down towards turn 9 we go for the penultimate time through the sweeper and the sweeping right-hander out of turn 10. A little bit further back, Luan Seidel battling away with the likes of Pascu. I think also with that Jensen Chalk. Last lap underway. Albert Friend still leads. This time it's ahead of Kian Bernard. Bernard trying to look one way, then the other. Can he try and tee up a move? He's going to try and see what momentum he can bring out of turn 2. But at the minute, Albert Friend just not looking back and just parking it where he knows he's allowed to do so without incurring the wrath of anybody. Out of the Europolan for the final time go the leaders. Through into turn 7. Now into the left-hand hairpin here at 8. Then it's the long run down through into Cafe Corner at turn number 9. And Bernard now having to start to defend against Charlie Kitely. It could come down to the wire for second position. Friend sweeps the outside. Kitely trying to make a window open for him. But it is going to be Albert Friend that's going to win Heat 2. Second goes the way of Bernard. Charlie Kitely P3. Jensen Chalk 4th. Luan Seidel finishes ahead of pole sitter Rares Pascu. They round out the top 6 with Turkey's Erin Unlodogan 7th. Louis Radcliffe finishes 8th, having started 21st. Joao Pereira started 15th, finishes in 9th. Harry Radcliffe starts 19th, rounds out the top 10 at the checkered. Emina Siedkowska 11th, ahead of Jensen Walker, who moved up 10 positions. Finley Smith finishes 13th, ahead of Lionel Munguia, who started 25th, ends up 14th. Tobias Johns rounds out the top 15. Branislav Rentka, Alex Shepard, Leon Herbose, Harry Taylor, Lieke van Berkel round out the top 20. What a disaster for the young lady driver for SP Motorsport from the Netherlands. Ali Fouad Miraz up 10 spots to 21st, ahead of Joshua Lorison, Philip Hansler, Diri Dodale, Dimitar Lazarov, Loris Perron-Mousset, Stanley Stafford, Mikko Grantins, Tim Feldman, and Augustin Hanik making it to the checkered. And unfortunately, it was game over early for Kraft Motorsport's Lennart Köster. So we now go to the penultimate race before the lunch break. It is qualifying heat 3. Seniors, A versus C. Here's your starting grid. Tino Sidler and Lewis Gilbert line up on the front row, with Lars Lambers and Mick van den Hout row 2, Rafael Moreau and Teresa Babišková row 3. Boris Maximov and Vince van der Halle row 4, with Harry Freeman and Max Sidursky rounding out the top 10. Attila Kalapax and Ryan Gandor row 6. Akos Madaras was due to be joined by Giorgio Montrone, who will have to start from the dummy grid. That's row 7. Matej Vikor and Bastian Mesnil row 8, with William Pemble and Sebastian Koch, followed by Shun Sekaguchi and Enzo Zani. Ryan Kairus and Ruka Demoitru, Bo Alvarez, Connor Large, Rain van der Meer, Louis Le Regular, Arav Dewan, Tom Reger, Dennis Helson and Hannes Uberfeld round out your grid. Tino Sidler and Vince van der Halle at the moment, after the initial bit of racing that has decided the first step of the intermediate classification. Sidler and van der Halle have a win apiece, putting them on 50 points. Lars Lambers and Teresa Babišková equal second position, let's say, on 44, equal third, 44 apiece. And then it's equal between Mick van den Hout and Rafael Moreau, with Freddie Lloyd and Danny Shields bringing up the remainder of the top 8. But of course, that dynamic will change over the course of this and the next 3 qualifying heats, which will then decide our top 36 starters for the final. Red lights on the gantry. The field at a slow crawl coming out of the 11th and final corner, as it is time to go revs up, lights on, and we are racing once again. Good start by Sidler. Gilbert trying to keep it to the outside. But Lars Lambers trying to robustly make his way through. And Sidler gets through back again to retake the race lead. Who's that diving up the inside of Lars Lambers? Teresa Babichkova up to P3 again, like she did on her previous start, a little bit further back. We've got the likes of the 326 Rafael Mujo, who's lost a few positions, as a lot of drivers steamrolling in. Oh, there's a moment going through turn 8. Oh, there's a couple of karts that have come together inadvertently. They're trying to unentwine them. Oh, dear. And that was coming off of the chicane. They do say it does take 2 to tango. It also means that it does take at least 2 to have a bit of an incident. And that is unfortunate because, well, Shun Sekaguchi I've seen not move. Attila Kalapax has had a shocker of a middle sector. Meantime, Teresa Babichkova up the inside and through on Lewis Gilbert for second position. Yep, Attila Kalapax and Shun Sekaguchi have both come together, I'm afraid. Of course, Shun Sekaguchi, the son of Yuhi Sekaguchi, who is one of the most prominent professional drivers in Japan, who's raced in Super Formula, and has also partnered Sasha Fenestraz in Super GT in the Saab Toyota. So a bit of a shame there for the two drivers, one from Hungary, one from Japan. But after 2 laps of racing, Sidler leads. Gilbert still second, back now in front of Babichkova. Lars Lambers P4, Mick Vandenhout 5th, Max Sidursky 6th. Lewis Gilbert would be a lot higher up the order had it not been the incident between himself and Macaulay Bishop coming out of the final corner last lap, last time around on their previous heat. And that just goes to show how quickly the tide can change. Now, Tino Sidler trying to break away. And with if he gets 2 wins for the lunch break, that puts him on 100 points. 50 for a win, 44 for second. Babichkova dives to the inside of Gilbert. Through she goes. And retakes second. Oh, Lars Lambers was 2 wheels on the grass coming out of turn 11. Nearly bumped over the curbs to try and get through on Gilbert. As Lambers has got Max Sidursky on his case on the rear bumper. They've also got Mick Vandenhout there as Rafael Moreau has got through for the fastest lap of the race. 56.226 as Sidursky gets through on Lambers. That was through at turn 5. Rein van der Meer gets a black and white warning flag. The 332 from the Netherlands under the behest of race control, who is saying, we are watching what you are doing. Please behave yourself a little bit. It's basically a warning before something gets thrown at them, like, say, a penalty, for instance. However, the racing continues here in earnest. Here in Genk, more to the point. But Sidler continues to hold a commanding stamp on proceedings. And he's just under half a second ahead of Babichkova. Gilbert third, Sidursky. And then Mick Vandenhout has just gone through on Lars Lambers. Right behind them is Harry Freeman for KR Sport from the UK in the 378. Vince van der Halle 8th. Ryan Gandor 9th. As Rafael Moreau now down to 10th. Change for position. So that was Harry Freeman going through on Mick Vandenhout. So change for what is effectively 6th on the field of play. Biggest winner or hardest charger in this race, Hannes Überfeld, is now up the order, up to 16th as the 333 from Germany. Biggest loser, Attila Kalapax, I'm afraid, down to 27th. Sebastian Koch down 10 places. Shun Sekaguchi down 10 places. So, there's a bit of a rump. There's a bump and a run. Ryan Gandor getting involved. I think also Rafael Moreau was there. Someone's front axle went up in the air and slammed straight down on the tarmac. Max Sidursky now P3. He's ahead of Lewis Gilbert. Up 7 is the 397 from the Netherlands for SP Motorsport. 55.914. Today's Babichkova now up to P2. And is trying to close in the gap to Tino Sidler, but with 1.5 minutes plus an additional lap. Don't say that is not possible for someone of Teresa Babichkova's caliber. Of course, had the opportunity to has had the opportunity over her career to race in single-seaters. And also competed in W Series back in 2022 for the, under the Puma banner. And took part in the entire season apart from Singapore. But still, the battles at the sharp end of the field are thick and fast. Sidler running away with it at the moment as we go on to the penultimate lap of the race. Babichkova trying to chase him down. Lewis Gilbert is the cork in the iron brew bottle, to coin a phrase here. As, that was very cheeky. Late send and a half by Harry Freeman. And Mick Vandenhout gets caught out completely. Babichkova, new fastest lap of the race, 55.239 for the driver from the Czech Republic. And she's closed that gap to Tino Sidler by a fraction. It's just over 0.6. We hit 0 on the timer for what is the third of 6 qualifying heats for senior road tax. And Tino Sidler will bring us on to the last 1,360 metres for these respective drivers. All 30 drivers are looking good to finish this race. Last lap underway. Babichkova has got the gap to just under 0.6 of a second as there goes Max Sidursky. Fires it up the inside of Lewis Gilbert. Harry Freeman trying to get through on the 329. And that is not going to work coming out of turn 3. Another fastest lap by Babichkova. And she puts in a 55.191. But at the moment, it is still in the hands of a certain Swiss driver. A multi-time Rotax Max Challenge Switzerland champion, has represented his nation for many a time, along with older brother Mario, who now these days runs as a driver coach. But it is going to be the case that Tino Sidler takes his second win of the weekend. Oh, what a drive by the 310 for KR Sport. Today's Babichkova P2. Max Sidursky third. Lewis Gilbert, the pride of Scotland, takes fourth ahead of Harry Freeman. Lars Lambers, Vince van der Halle, Mick Vandenhout, Rafael Moreau and Boaz Maximov complete the top 10. Ryan Gandor, Akos Madaras, Bastian Mesnil, Bo Alrichs and William Pemble round out the top 15. Hannes Uberfeld from last to 16th, 14 places gained, and is the hardest charger of the race. Enzo Zani, Matej Vikor, Rein Vandermeer and Germany's Tom Heger round out the top 20. Hein Kaihus, Louis Le Rigoleur, Luca Dumoitru, Arav Dewan, Attila Kalapax, Dennis Helson, Shun Sekaguchi, Sebastian Koch, Conor Large and Giorgio Montrone round out your finishers, everyone making it to the checkered. We now go to our final race before the lunch break here on day one of round 3 of the 2026 BNL Karting Series season. It is Cinemax qualifying heat 4, Groups B versus D. Here is your starting grid. Charlie King lines up on pole position with Antoine Lemieux alongside on the front row. Ollie Wise and Andrea Remy, row 2. Freddie Lloyd and Arnaud Sabaha, row 3. Deacon Russell and Macaulay Bishop, row 4, with Vic van Kampenhout and Danny Shields rounding out the top 10. Raymond van Beek and Ava Morris, row 6. Kai Clark and Leon Hasty, row 7, ahead of Antoine Tahon and Koen Willems. Matteo Montrone, Mark Kimber, Sverre Ubben, Bran van der Weken, Tobias Norman, Louis Oliver Gunther, Boris Verhaag, Jori Schoens, Noah Janssen, Lara Koenice, Cody Lepatorel, Tom Strehler and Philip Lenk round out the grid. And amidst the Saturday lunchtime high sun here at the home of champions, the red lights are ignited, ready to signal the start. And once they go out, we'll be racing here at this iconic karting location. King and Lemieux on the front row of the grid. They will be the ones responsible for controlling the rolling start, as we are under starters' orders, as they will now make their way out to the final corner and head into the tram lines. Revs up, lights on, and we're racing. Charlie King leads the field. Antoine Lemieux trying to go towards the outside. The Canadian looking very brave there, as Andrea Remy loses out of position to, well, stays behind Ollie Wise, but then has got Deacon Russell, Arnaud Sabaha, not too far behind as they go through turn 5. Oh, bit of a spread there in the pack. Andrea Remy to the outside of turn 5. You can see there quite a few drivers trying to switch to the outside to get the crossover. One of the GKS karts gets a little bit compromised coming out of turn number 6 and into turn 7. But at the moment, leading the way, it is Charlie King. Lemieux, Wise now down to 3rd. Because having gotten through, that was the 375 of Freddie Lloyd from the UK. They're still juxtaposing at the front end of the field. Very nip and tuck coming across the line. King leads after the opening lap. Lemieux, Lloyd, Wise. And that is your top 4. Remy P5. Still like that at the moment. King and Lemieux have stayed where they started. Lloyd is up 2 places. Wise down 1. Remy down 1, Sabarin holding on to 6, just ahead of Macaulay Bishop, who's now got through on Deacon Russell. And this is where things get a little bit risque in terms of how close the drivers' bumpers are to one another. Into turn 9, then through the left-hander. Carry the speed out through turn 10 and then towards the final corner. Lloyd looking to switch back on Lemieux coming out of the final corner. But unfortunately for the 375 from the UK, the tactic did not quite work. Fastest lap of the race, Kai Clark now up into 8th position, having started 13th on the grid. Mark Kimber up 6 places already after the opening 2 laps. Tom Strehler up 7. Cody Lepatorel up 5. Running 21st and 22nd respectively. As now Lemieux trying to look to see if he can get past King. Not going to happen down the Europelon, I'm afraid. And still that bottleneck at the front end of the field is continuing onwards. So just over 4.25 minutes to go, plus an additional lap. Hasty goes purple, opening sector. Strehler, middle sector. Make that Ubben. Jori Schoens is out of the race, I'm afraid. And a quartet fighting at the sharp end of the field. Ollie Wise trying to get his elbows out, and he's looking to the inside of Freddie Lloyd. As all, Lloyd gets through for the race lead, but was that through use of the runoff area? Not my call, because I couldn't really... I just caught it as when he was coming out of the corner. But unfortunately for Yuri Schoens, a race to forget on that particular occasion. Mark Kimber now up to 8th. He's got through on the likes of Andrea Remy and Deacon Russell and Danny Shields to boot. And there is a change. Antoine Lemieux now goes through. Freddie Lloyd, was he going slow just then? I think he might have done. So across the line they go to complete this lap. That is really, really weird. I'm not too sure what's happened there. But Lemieux holding on to the lead. Kai Clark now up into P3. Ava Morris has just received a black and white warning flag from Race Control. She's dropped 11 spots down to 23rd. Oh, and it's the 302 coming in the bits. Oh, and there's another cart off. So we've had dramas for Jordi Schoens, Boris Verhaag, Antoine Tajon, and now Deacon Russell. Someone was off the circuit and onto the grass. Think that might... Well, Charlie King. What's happened to Charlie King? Where is he, more to the point? Has that cart come unstuck? And has it had a problem? Looks like Charlie King has actually ended up going to the back of it. Thank you very much, Roger Young. Always another set of eyes and ears are useful. Hope you're keeping well, my good friend. And Andrea Remy looks to be one that's not had a race to remember. Right, yellow flag at Marshall Post 6. As we got green, and there's somebody else walking away. Andrea Remy. That's a CAF Motorsport livery, I'm afraid. Just off of turn number 7, so there'll be yellow flags waving. And those have now been retracted, so we are down to 24 runners. Antoine Lemieux leads. Ollie Wise is trying to close him down. He's got Freddie Lloyd and Kai Clark not too far behind. The drivers last time around were about 8 and a bit tenths of a second adrift from each other. There's now Freddie Lloyd to the inside of Ollie Wise, and that's through for second at turn 1. Neatly expedited by the 375. And at the moment, with just over 50 seconds to go, Tino Sidler leads the intermediate classification on 100 points, ahead of Teresa Babichkova on 82. Vince van der Halle, Teresa Babichkova on 88. Vince van der Halle, 82. Freddie Lloyd is the highest place in this particular encounter, and is one ahead of Lars Lambers. Matt Stadersky, 7th, ahead of Mark Kimber, who rounds out the top 8, and they are covered by 28 points in terms of the intermediate classification ranking. But that will change as the race progresses along. Antoine Lemieux has this and 2 more laps remaining to bring it across the line as the race winner. And so far in terms of the seniors, we've had Tino Sidler take 2 wins. Vince van der Halle took the win number 2 as a move from Kai Clark, and that would have been on Ollie Wise as Mark Kimber gets his way through. Up to P4 goes the man from Strawberry Racing. But the timer has expired. Bran van der Weyken is lighting up the timesheets purple. As we are on the last lap of the race, and Antoine Lemieux sees Freddie Lloyd. Well, this could be very close. DHR versus Evolution. Bran van der Weyken on cue. Patrick Verbist, I know sometimes you do end up watching the entirety of the streams. Has just put in the fastest lap of the race, 55.369. by the 396 from Belgium. Down the back straightaway for the final time before we hit turn 6, then into turn number 7. And I'm wondering whether this is going to be a grandstand finish for our 4th out of 6 qualifying heats for seniors. It's the run to the checkered. The 2 leaders are going to be fighting it out, but across the line will come our race winner, and that is Antoine Lemieux from Canada. Freddie Lloyd, P2. Kai Clark, P3. Mark Kimber, P4. Ollie Wise, Macaulay Bishop, and Leon Hasty, representing the UK by way of Scotland. So that is effectively quite a few British drivers at the sharp end. Leon Hasty, Danny Shields, Blan van der Weken, and Tom Streller. Streller looks to be the hardest charger in that one, up from 28th to 10th, ahead of Arnold Samaha, Tobias Norman, Vic van Kampenhout, Lado Koenidze. Matteo Montrone, Sverre Ubben, Cody Le Paterel, Philip Lenk, Koen Willems, Eva Morris. Then Noah Janssen, Louis Oliver Gunter, Homer Van Beek and Charlie King round out the finishers. Unfortunately, earlier on in the race, we lost Andreas Remy, Russell Deacon, Antoine Taron, Boris Verhaag and Yuri Schoens here at the home champions. Well, that wraps up the morning's action for day 1, round 3 of the BNL Karting Series season for 2026. So we're going to go to the lunch break. We'll see you a little bit later on for the remainder of our qualifying heats for juniors and seniors, along with the pre-finals. Take care. We'll see you very soon.